and as Eitan mentioned, Governor Gavin Newsom releasing a statement on Dianne Feinstein's passing, saying in part, quote, Dianne Feinstein was many things, a powerful, trailblazing U.S. senator, an early voice for gun control, a leader in times of tragedy and chaos. But to me, she was a dear friend, a lifelong mentor, and a role model, not only for me, but to my wife and daughters. Our reflection on what Senator Feinstein has meant to California and national politics continues now with Fox 40's political analyst, now with Democrat Andrew Acosta and Republican Tab Berg. Gentlemen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Senator Feinstein's story is a story of perseverance, if nothing else. 2 failed runs for mayor and then ascending the job of mayor of San Francisco after trying to save George Moscone and Harvey Milk the night they were assassinated. That was a defining moment. If you had to pick just one other defining moment from the rest of her career, what stands out to you, Andrew?
Well, obviously, her tenure was one where Democrats and Republicans worked together at times, and she wasn't afraid to stand up to her party. It's well documented that she was a supporter of the death penalty, and she went to the convention early when she was a senator and made known that she was supportive of the death penalty and knew that she would get booed, and they used that in her campaign ad to show that she wasn't afraid to stand up to her own party at times. So, different time, different politics, but somebody that could cross the aisle, and I think it was well documented of how strong her support was when people wanted to run for office. They always looked for Dianne Feinstein's endorsement, especially in the early 90s into 2000s.
All righty, Tab, what defining moment stands out to you?
Well, I still remember when she was first elected in '92, the same year that Barbara Boxer was, and California became the first state to have 2 women senators. And then, as Andrew had said, I mean, just as someone who demonstrated courage beyond politics, beyond party, not just one instance, but multiple instances. So I think those are the 2 things that really stand out in my mind.
Reaching out to Republicans, trying to find common ground, a hallmark, as Andrew was just pointing out, of Feinstein's life in public service. Cooperation, something so needed right now with the country about to fall off the financial cliff right into another government shutdown, right, Tab?
Well, a shutdown isn't a financial cliff. It's happened, as we've said before, 21 times in the last 47 years. So it's not a giant cliff. But yeah, it is important for us. We're in a time of crisis to have people who can reach across the aisle and say, hey, let's find a way to get things done, rather than the brinksmanship that we're going through now, where Democrats refuse to compromise at all on border security, and Republicans are refusing to compromise on the budget. And
Andrew, how much more do we need to see this kind of cooperation, this willingness to at least reach across and try?
Yeah, we as someone who worked on campaigns that were in purple districts back in the day before I had gray hair, we always wanted to get Dianne Feinstein's endorsement, because it meant to Republicans and independents that you're working for a Democrat who was, someone who got things done. Those days are over. We have fewer purple districts. Everything's much more partisan. It's red or blue. So it's a lot harder to be in the middle. I mean, Dianne Feinstein wasn't someone who was looking for clicks on social media, because back then it was her showing up and doing the work. So I don't know how we change that, because we're in a different world today with redistricting and just kind of how the, shirts and skins have taken over, made it very partisan.
Just this week, Governor Newsom signed landmark legislation to reduce gun violence here by placing taxes and tighter restrictions on sales and permitting. Senator Feinstein spearheaded the most significant piece of gun control legislation in the past 30 years, the 1994 federal assault weapons ban. Andrew, that also lasting impact.
Yeah, it was a 10-year bill, that once it was over, we haven't been able to go back to it. And we've seen, since '94, look at the tragedies we've seen at school shootings that were, something we didn't see in 1994. But now they're prevalent. They're a weekly occurrence, and it's sad.
Tab, your thoughts about her work when it comes to gun control?
Well, I mean, I think the data actually shows that the gun control doesn't work that well. That we need to be looking for other, more innovative solutions, rather than putting more restrictions on law-abiding citizens, because the criminals don't care about the law in the first place, so they're not going to follow any new law that we add on the books.
And the governor is now in the position of having to appoint the caretaker he's talked about in terms of filling her seat until a new senator is elected. He's promised that caretaker would be a black woman, but not someone who's running for the seat. So Barbara Lee is out. Tab, who might be in?
Well, I think it's important to note that the governor does not have to appoint this position because we are within the 180-day window where he could fold this into a special election. But he is in an absolute pickle because he made promises not based on, I'm going to pick the best candidate, but here's some criteria, some personality traits. Here's some identity that I want to see in the office. And it's going to be a difficult row to hoe for him because we're going to be facing California, the first state in over 50 years that's had two non-elected senators sitting in the U.S. Senate. So I'm not sure there's a great choice. I mean, he might look for Maxine Waters, but talk about a world of change from the courtly and bipartisan and focused on solutions Dianne Feinstein to one of the biggest bomb throwers in D.C.
Okay. Andrew, do you agree with that characterization? And who do you think he might pick?
Well, first of all, I think everyone should read the obit on Senator Feinstein so they understand her work, her life. Then on the politics, look, it's a big state. I'm sure the governor and his people are smart enough to find somebody who's well qualified that could be a strong caretaker to help California for the next year, if that's the decision he wants to make, and stay out of some of this, some of this crazy politics that we're in. I mean, obviously, there's a full Senate race on, and he's already said he doesn't want to, get in the middle of that. So I just feel like there are other qualified people out there. Take away some of the names that we've already heard that have already pretty much rejected this, who are all in office. Why would you leave your office for a short-term gig then come back to it? I just feel like there's other people out there that have served with him or he knows from his work as governor, as mayor, that would make a good choice.
All righty, gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight and your reflections today. We appreciate you.
Thank you.